right, so are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Get ready to dive deep into breath meditation. We've got all your notes right here, and we're going to try to pull out some of the most fascinating stuff. I mean, this guide on breath meditation we're looking at, wow.
I know, it's really cool.
Breath work is something people don't always think about much, you know?
Yeah, it's so foundational, though.
It really is. Like, okay, did you ever think there could be like a best way to actually breathe? Not just for meditation, but just like for everyday life.
Right.
That's what this guide's all about. And it breaks breath meditation down into these 6 steps. And the first one is finding a comfortable breath. I like how they emphasize like asking yourself, what kind of breath would feel good?
Yeah, I love that. You know what I find fascinating about that is it's all about like becoming aware of those subtle cues from your body, you know?
Yeah.
Which we like totally ignore most of the time.
It's true. We're just breathing and not even thinking about it half the time, right?
Right.
But this guide is all about fine-tuning that whole process.
Yeah.
It even says to adjust your breath if it feels strained at all.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that makes sense when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because those tiny little feelings of strain or tension can actually like point to places where we might be holding ourselves back, both like physically and mentally.
Okay, so this is interesting because when you get distracted and have to bring your attention back to your breath, the guide says to actually reward yourself with a really good, satisfying breath.
Oh, interesting.
It's like giving your mind a little high five for getting back on track.
I love that. There's actually like some really cool psychology behind that too. Yeah. By connecting your breath with like a positive feeling, you're more likely to actually stick with it, you know?
Right.
It's all about creating a positive association with the breath.
So step 2 is called staying with the breath, and it's all about staying focused.
Right.
But step 3 is where things start to get kind of interesting. This is where you expand your awareness.
Yeah, the guy talks about the systematic body scan that you start like at your navel.
And it's not just about noticing your breath. It's like feeling how your breath feels in each area.
Yeah.
Like really tuning in.
This is so powerful because it helps you become aware of those different parts of your body and how your breath affects each one.
Yeah.
Like you might notice that certain areas naturally want to breathe at a different pace.
It's wild. The guide even suggests allowing your breath to change its rhythm.
Yeah.
Depending on what feels good in each part of your body.
Exactly.
It's like your body instinctively knows how to breathe best.
It totally does. And that actually connects to like the concept of energy flow and tension release.
Okay.
So becoming more aware of how the breath moves through you can help you find and release tension you might not even know you are holding.
Yeah.
Like think about it. We carry stress in our shoulders, our hips, our jaw, even without realizing it.
It's like a whole new way of listening to your body.
Totally.
Just through your breath.
Oh.
So you're breathing, you're scanning your body. And then step 4, you choose a specific spot to focus your attention on.
Yes.
And some of the locations are kind of interesting.
I know, like the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
The base of your skull.
Right. It's not your typical meditation focal point.
It's not your typical spot, right?
Okay.
But what's fascinating is that those like seemingly random spots are actually considered important energy centers in a lot of traditions. And the guide emphasizes that it's all about experimenting to find what works best for you.
Right.
There's no one right answer.
Yeah. I like that. It's refreshing that it's not like a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So then in step 5, you move into full body awareness. And they use this really cool analogy. Your awareness is like a candle in a dark room.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So your awareness is centered, but it has this expansive influence that reaches every corner of the room.
Yes.
Or in this case, your body.
Your body, exactly.
I love that image.
Yeah.
It reminds me that even though we're focusing on the breath, we're actually cultivating a sense of awareness that can encompass our entire experience.
Totally.
And finally, we reach step 6, which is all about whole body breath flow.
Yes.
So the idea here is that all these different breath energies in your body are interconnected. And when they're flowing in harmony, you naturally achieve this state of effortless breathing.
That's the goal. Right.
So it's not just about consciously controlling your breath.
Right.
It's about tapping into a deeper rhythm that's already present within you.
Exactly. And this effortless breathing isn't just beneficial during meditation.
Right.
It can actually translate to a greater sense of ease and flow in your everyday life. Imagine moving through your day with that same sense of like calm and presence.
I have to admit, just hearing you describe these steps is making me feel a little more relaxed already.
Me too.
It's amazing how powerful something as simple as breathing can be.
It really is. And what's even more interesting is that the guide encourages you to play around with these steps.
Right.
They actually suggest changing the order, trying variations within each step, or even just focusing on specific steps depending on what you need.
That's right. They even talk about visualizing your breath flowing in different directions throughout your body.
Right.
That sounds a little out there, but also kind of cool.
You know, it might sound unusual, but that idea of directing your breath in specific ways is actually rooted in ancient energy work practices.
Oh, wow. So we're not just talking about the physical act of breathing.
Right.
We're talking about harnessing a deeper energetic level within ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? The guide even talks about sensing this like cocoon of breath energy surrounding your body and how you can actually learn to harmonize these energies and even use them to like ease discomfort or tension.
Wow. That's pretty mind-blowing. We've gone from basic breathing exercises to a full-on energy healing session in just a few steps.
I know, right?
But I have to admit, all this talk about variations in energy work is making me feel a little overwhelmed.
Right.
Where do you even begin with all this?
That's a great question. And the guide actually acknowledges that not everyone is going to be ready to like dive into the deep end right away.
Right.
It specifically suggests that beginners focus on those core steps first.
Okay.
Like finding a comfortable breath, staying with it, and choosing a focal point.
That makes sense. So it's like building a foundation first and then gradually adding more layers of complexity as you become more comfortable.
Exactly.
I think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to do everything perfectly that we forget to just breathe and enjoy the process.
Absolutely. And what's remarkable is that even if you just stick with those basic steps, you're still tapping into the power of breath awareness.
Yeah.
It's a practice that can be as simple or as elaborate as you choose to make it.
I love that. It's so adaptable and accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you're a seasoned meditator or just starting out, there's something here for you.
Totally.
But what about those who are more experienced with meditation? What does the guide suggest for them?
That's where the idea of quickly achieving stillness comes in. So once you've mastered the basics, the guide suggests challenging yourself to see how quickly you can settle into that state of full body awareness and effortless breathing.
So it's like taking your meditation skills to the next level.
Yeah.
And training your mind to become calm and focused on demand.
Exactly. And that skill can be incredibly valuable, not just during meditation, but in everyday life.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to access that stillness and clarity amidst the chaos of a busy day.
That would be incredible. It's like having a superpower, the ability to stay centered no matter what's happening around you.
It is.
You mentioned earlier that this guide also touches on using breath work to address specific ailments.
Yeah.
It didn't go into a ton of detail, but it definitely piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
The guide suggests that if you're dealing with a particular health issue, directing your breath and awareness to that area can sometimes help promote healing.
It reminds me of those stories you hear about people using visualization to recover from injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Is it kind of like that?
There are definitely some similarities.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into the power of your mind and breath to influence your body's natural healing processes. Right. It's not about replacing conventional medicine, of course.
Of course.
But about exploring additional approaches that can support your well-being.
That's really interesting. I'm thinking about how many different ways this could apply. Like if you have chronic neck tension from sitting at a computer all day.
Right.
Could you use breath meditation to help release that tension?
It's definitely worth exploring. The guide even suggests that different areas of the body may respond to different types of breaths. So it's a matter of experimenting and finding what works best for you.
So it's like a personalized breath prescription.
I love that. Okay, I have to ask, what about those variations the guide mentions? Like visualizing the breath flowing in different directions. That sounds a little out there.
It might sound unusual at first, but it's actually rooted in those ancient energy work practices.
The idea is that by consciously directing your breath in specific ways, you can influence the flow of energy within your body.
So it's not just about the physical act of breathing. It's about tapping into a deeper energetic level.
Exactly. Remember that cocoon of breath energy we talked about earlier? This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The guide suggests experimenting with different ways to harmonize these energies and even using them to address discomfort or tension.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. It's like we've gone from breathing 101 to advanced energy healing techniques in just a few minutes.
Right.
But I also have to be honest, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Where do you even start with all these variations.
Well, remember what we said earlier about personalization and finding what feels right for you.
Right.
The guide emphasizes that there's no one right way to practice.
Right. It's about exploring and experimenting to discover what works best for your unique needs. And if things start to feel too complicated, you can always come back to those core steps as your anchor.
Exactly. Sometimes the simplest practices are the most powerful.
Speaking of practical applications, do you remember earlier when we talked about using breath work to handle stressful situations?
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that.
That's one of the most valuable takeaways from this guide. Remember that gratifying breath technique we discussed?
Yeah.
It can be your secret weapon in those moments when you feel stress taking over.
So instead of getting caught up in the chaos of the situation, you shift your focus to the steady rhythm of your breath.
Exactly. It's like hitting the pause button on your stress response and giving yourself a moment to reset. And by practicing these techniques regularly, you're essentially training your nervous system to react differently to stress. It's like building resilience from the inside out.
It's incredible. It's like we had this like built-in stress management tool.
Right.
Like right there.
Totally.
And this guide is really making it clear that these techniques aren't just for, like sitting on a meditation cushion.
Yeah.
They can be integrated into everyday life.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so relevant and practical. You know?
Yeah.
It's not just about like esoteric practices. It's about giving you a toolkit for handling those ups and downs of daily life.
Imagine you're like in a tense meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Your heart's racing and you're about to just lose your cool, Siri.
Yeah.
Could you actually use these breathing techniques to calm yourself down right then and there?
Totally. That's where the principle of finding that gratifying breath becomes so powerful.
Yeah.
It's like an anchor, you know?
Yeah.
It helps you shift your focus from that like external chaos to the internal rhythm of your breath.
It's almost like hitting the reset button on your stress response
Yes.
and creating a little space for yourself to regain composure.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that the more you practice these techniques, the more you train your nervous system to respond differently to stress. You're essentially building resilience from the inside out.
Okay, so we've explored the 6 steps, talked about variations, and even delved into the energetic aspects of breath work.
A lot of stuff.
It's been pretty incredible. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to you, the listener.
Yes.
What does all of this mean for you? Like, what's the key takeaway?
I think the main thing is you've learned the roadmap for mastering your breath. But remember, it's your map, Yeah. Experiment, explore, discover what works best for you. That's where the real magic happens.
So it's not about rigidly following instructions.
Right.
It's about using them as a starting point for your own personal exploration of breath.
Exactly. This guide is an invitation to unlock the vast potential of your own breath and discover how it can enhance your physical, mental, and emotional well-being,
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Now that you understand the power of focused breathing, we're curious, where in your life could you benefit from bringing this awareness? What changes might you experience if you incorporated even just a few minutes of this practice into your day?
Yeah, maybe you could try finding your gratifying breath during your commute or use a body scan to release tension before a big presentation. There are countless ways to weave these practices into your daily routine.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive into breath meditation.
Wow.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to explore the incredible power of your breath.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Me too.
Until next time, keep breathing, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening.